Um, Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. This is pretty exciting to see some new faces, see some old faces, and really talk about a pretty neat development within the county for cultural and natural resources. So Kim, can I share now my screen?
Yes. Oh, wait, let me double check.
Okay.
Now you can. It's got, yes.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see that? Let me get to the beginning here. Okay. Again, thanks, Kim, for having me. Neabsco Creek's been an interesting part of my life over the years, having moved here in 1992 to open Leesylvania State Park. And some of that work we did at the park still really kind of makes it, this whole Neabsco an extension of Leesylvania to a certain extent. It's all the Potomac Heritage Trails. So what I'm going to do today is kind of go over the history of the creek very briefly, talk a little bit about the Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail. And I apologize if I'm looking off to my left, probably your right. My screen, I've got my other computer up so I can read this a little easier. Park amenities that we have in the new Neabsco Creek Regional Park. Completed and ongoing capital and projects. There's still a lot going on there. A lot has just been finished. Talk about some future projects and then have some questions. I know a lot of folks have been involved in different areas of this. And I guess one of the takeaways I hope you have from tonight is that, you all specifically, because this is what you love to do, protect natural resources, everybody makes a difference. And there's so many folks I can think about over the years through these properties that have made a difference, and by being one or two citizens. So that's something that I try to weave into all my talks, that, government does listen. They might not like it, not all the time. They might not listen all the time, but being involved is incredibly important. Okay, in May of 2019, the Prince William County Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism combined and renamed the various cultural, natural, and recreational resources adjacent to Neabsco Creek in Woodbridge, Virginia. The combination and integration of the culturally and naturally significant resources of the creek is a significant step in the creation of a large passive recreational regional park with unique features and a diverse customer base. Passive recreational park, that's something that I want to see a lot more of. I want to be part of a lot more of, but this is a big one for Prince William County. We'll explore the different facets of the park, discuss unique opportunities inherent with such a vibrant place, and discuss future efforts to manage and expand park offerings while protecting the unique cultural and natural value of the landscape. And one of the protections, of course, is our easements, and the majority of the property is under easement for the Met's wetland section. I found this in our archives today. It's kind of, sometimes it's great to be the historic preservation chief for 18 years. You get a lot of cool pictures. So I found this of Woodbridge, probably early 70s, late 60s. And the two arrows, the one to the left is the railroad bridge crossing from Featherstone to Leesylvania. And then the right picture is Ripon Lodge. So you can see really where the development stopped at that point, and south was still uncharted territory for developers. But you can also see that the creek was silted in at that point. Okay, the history of the creek. The first people recorded living on Neabsco Creek were the part of the Dogue tribe. John Smith recorded this in 1608 as he went up the Potomac River. He named it Neabsco. European settlers had pushed out or killed most of the Dogue by the 1730s, settling the creek valley now called Neabsco. Fishing, logging, shipbuilding, milling, and tobacco farming dominated the landscape for 200 years. This is where I want to go out and talk a little bit about the enslaved who really built this area of Prince William County. It's an interesting to know that the farm to the north of Neabsco became Ripon Lodge, and the owner was a carpenter. So his slaves were very skilled at building government buildings, churches, things like that, barns, houses, very valuable to him economically. To the south was the Lee Plantation, and that was a traditional tobacco plantation. Again, economics. They needed a lot of enslaved to manage a tobacco plantation. And to the west was the Taylor Ironworks, another large plantation-style industrial site. And they used that same plantation-style slavery to run their milling or their smelting plants. So the enslaved did the lion's share of the work in the economy of this area. That's just something I wanted to mention. And we tell those stories at all of our historic sites. So I think that's it's very important right now, more so than ever, that we talk about our history and we talk about it honestly and talk about it honestly. So in the late 1920s, the last sailing ships visited the creek and most commercial operations ceased. Silting that started in the 1700s became especially severe by the end of the 1800s and still exists today. When the railroads were built across, the bridges for the railroad were built across the creeks, the edge of the creeks, like Neabsco, Powell's. They used a lot of wood, and the lumber came from the hillsides along the river. So that's when a lot of the siltation started to happen in the creeks, the tidal creeks around in Prince William County and in Stafford and in north as well. Excuse me. Okay, history of Neabsco Creek. On my left is circa 1930. It's Judge Ellis and his wife Desi with their chauffeur Raymond taking the Rippon out for a spin on Neabsco Creek. The picture on the right is myself and the late Lou Sutter picking tires out of the creek in the early 90s. When we first got to open Leesylvania, we realized we really couldn't have everybody coming in and seeing Neabsco with hundreds and hundreds of tires in it as you drove into this beautiful new park. So the first winter after we opened, we devised a way to drag our boats out onto the ice so we wouldn't fall through. We pried the tires out. If we couldn't load them in the boat because of the tide or whatever, we would leave them in sandbars, and in the spring or at a high tide, we'd come back and load them up. So that's us taking a load of tires in. The county allowed us to dump them at the landfill for free, and we took, I think, more than 140 tires out. So that was cold work. And then later, finally, we got I'm assuming the county got all those boats and other things that were left in the creek out of there. So it's a much different place than it was even 25 years ago. This is another aerial from our archives. This is taken from above Ripon Lodge, shooting straight out to Freestone Point. Again, you can see that the creek was already silted in by, these are very early aerial images. Judge Ellis, who owned Ripon Lodge, he could afford to, planes had just started flying, and he could afford to bring planes up there and take aerial images. So it's a pretty amazing look at early Prince William, at least the east side. Okay, the Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail. I think most of us know about that. It's a pretty important project right now. It's been going on for years, and I'll show you in the next slide. But the trail is meant to link a lot of scenic places, a lot of open spaces, a lot of downtowns, a lot of economic activity together to create this 830 miles of trails in the corridor to really allow folks to explore the entire Potomac. Now within Prince William County, the picture is of the 1966 study that came out a month before I was born. And it's really the first time that the federal government put on paper what their vision was for the Potomac Valley. And it's an amazing document. I have a copy of it, and it's pretty rare to have a copy of it. But a lot of what we're doing today was laid out in this document 50 plus years ago. In Prince William County, the trail stretches from Occoquan to Stafford. Ongoing projects are underway or completed in the Woodbridge section of the trail, and they include the Neabsco Creek portion, which we're going to go over a little bit, the boardwalk a little bit more today. The Occoquan Bay section within the wildlife refuge is going to be completed this month. If we could get the rain to stop, at least those evening thunderstorms. And the Featherstone Wildlife Refuge section, which is it's a small section, but it's a very technical section to complete. with the pipeline, the CSX tracks, the amount of wetlands there, the low area. We're hoping to have that completed in December of next year. Okay, here we go. I think I passed this one here. Here we go. Sorry about that, folks. A little skip. Okay, Neabsco Regional Park. It's back to the big new park we have here. It's pretty amazing that we've been able to put all this together. Of course, historic properties or historic preservation was merged into the park system in December 2018. That was a big help to get these pieces together. So I'm going to go through all the different components of the park. These signs will be installed at every amenity so that you can have one of the things we're finding out is folks are having a hard time navigating. A lot of folks are not used to being in nature that are on this trail, and which we really love the fact that we're getting new people, but we need to really sign it pretty heavily so that folks can feel comfortable. At the North Landing, we have the new parking lot, the picnic pavilion, playground. The Potomac Heritage Trail is not only just the boardwalk, but it's the sidewalks that have come from that comes from Ripon Boulevard all the way to Route 1. That's about 1.75 miles. And that's a pretty important part. And I guess I do want to mention again, people make a difference, but Supervisor Principe, he was the driving force for the section of Woodbridge for so many years. And as he was leaving office, he funded a number of these additional amenities that I'm going to talk about. Well, he funded them with proffers, so it's county funding. The fitness trail. This was a late add-on, and it's just been an amazing. I never thought I would like to design fitness trails and playgrounds, but in fact, I thought I wouldn't like that. But it's pretty amazing. It's 5 different pieces or stations with that each work out a different muscle group. So combined, they feature a complete workout, including walking or running the trail. They're all accessible, with one targeting people with varying abilities. The fitness trail is unique to this area and represents our goal as a county and as a department to increase inclusiveness and accessibility to high quality park amenities. This is probably the nicest fitness trail in the state until others catch up, and we're very proud of it. And this also ties into our goals for a healthy community. Parks want to be a leader in promoting a healthy community. And that's from our new comprehensive plan, all 3 of those goals we met with this one fitness area, and it is used. We got final approval on December 31st to open it, and I went out there that evening at 5 o'clock, and as I was pulling the caution tape off, a gentleman ran up to me and says, "Hey, can we use this?" And I said, "Sure," as soon as I take the tape down. And sure enough, he came back with his gym clothes, and he was working out when I left. It's an amazing part of the new park. We have a number of historic resources here. Ripon Lodge, circa 1747, was the colonial home of Richard Blackburn. I talked about him being a builder. His son Thomas fought in the American Revolution, and his daughter married Bushrod Washington, so there's a really strong tie to the Washington family. The house of 40 acres was purchased by the county and restored starting in 1999, and we've done a lot of work to it since then. If you haven't been there, please do. It's worth the trip, and it's not that far away. This is a more probably 1930s look at the house, and if I'll go back. If you look to the right at the trees on the right, one of them is an elm tree planted in the 30s. You'll see it there, and then you'll see it there. It's like Pac-Man eating the house, but it's such an important tree that we prune it every couple of years and inoculate it with our friends over at Environmental Services and try to take care of it so it can stay a champion tree. And this is what I think is a really neat shot. You can see the lodge kind of in the middle, top right. That whole open area is farmland. Going down to that dirt road is Blackburn Road. So the area to the bottom of the picture is where the new park is, where the parking lot is. So the goal for the lodge is to, at a certain point, open that vista back up, put a fence around it, and actually bring in farm animals. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but it would be really super nice to have that amenity in Woodbridge. basically a farm. Kings Highway Heritage Park. This was a project that we spent a lot of time on over the years. It's also called the Potomac Path. It's a Native American route that was improved for use of European settlers to the area. And the county, there are many sections still intact. People don't really understand that or know that, but it's not all asphalt. There's pieces that you can find. The largest being almost a mile within Prince William Forest Park. From Occoquan to Chassahoamzik is, of course, where it goes in Prince William County. In Neabsco, there are two preserved sections. The first is at the intersection of Blackburn and Ripon Boulevard. You'll see the trees kind of behind the daycare. There's a section there. And then the second section is located in a townhome subdivision, the new one, Villages of Ripon, which is, I guess, 12 years old now, on Vantage Drive. That section there, we actually were embroiled in a lawsuit for a number of years as a county to preserve that section. So that's very important section of just to tell the history of of transportation. That's the section of the road as it looks like a big ditch. This is the second section on Vantage Drive. You can see going. It's not that long, but you can make a little quarter-mile loop if you. I see folks walking dogs there all the time. Okay, Neabsco Creek Boardwalk. It's a 3/4 mile section of the Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail. It is the signature section of trail in Prince William County. Planning and construction of the segments was a 10-year process with a design and construction budget of $4.7 million. The boardwalk includes 2 landings, a 2-story observation platform, and it's important to note that the low boardwalk areas were built to withstand periodic inundation by high water. We built it that way so that folks could get into nature. They could get into the wetlands and get immersed in the plantings, in the plants. So we've had some storms where people have said, "Oh no, it's been destroyed, it's been wrecked." It's come out of it so far, come out of it, no problem. The South Landing includes a pier for environmental education programs. The boardwalk, again, I mentioned the new parking area, and that's a 1/4 mile trail from the boardwalk to the North Landing. That's the North Landing in the 60s. So if you walk out on the boardwalk from the North Landing, if you look to your left, you'll see the remnants of the pier. And that's Admiral Blackburn Black's boat there. So that's it was navigable, although he did lose his boat for one summer when it got stuck in the Neabsco Creek. And that is the boardwalk on the day we opened it. That's a lot of people. Coming up, we have some interpretive signs that are going to be placed. I think if you've been there, you've seen the cutouts, the stainless steel cutouts of the different birds and animals. They're very well received, and now we have interpretive panels that are going to go up in a number of locations, talking about the history and the environment. And Cindy, if you're on the call, one of them Cindy helped write, so Cindy Smith. That you've probably seen this guy if you've been out there. He greets everybody as you come around from the first entrance to the second entrance. All right, the Wetlands Preserve. I saw Mike on the call, and I'm sure he'll have some comments on this during the Q&A. In 1994, Wetland Studies and Solutions obtained approval for the first private wetlands mitigation bank in Virginia, the 230-acre Julie Metz Wetlands Bank. 17 acres of it is the actual constructed wetlands. The remaining 213 acres is the open water or the wetlands of the creek. This has been preserved in perpetuity. Again, I mentioned the easements. That's something that would be great to have the entire Ripon Lodges under easement. The Kings Highway is going under easement. So as we talk about preservation, long-term preservation goals, that's something that we should be talking about as a community. The preserve's original boardwalk are being replaced with a continuous 1-mile boardwalk that will follow the existing trail bordering the creek. In other words, we're going to more than double the size of our boardwalk by putting a 1-mile boardwalk through the Neabsco Creek Wetlands Preserve or the Julie J. Metz Neabsco Creek Wetlands Preserve. Sorry, Mike, but it's really hard to market a mitigation bank. So we changed the name, but it is still the Julie Metz Neabsco Creek Wetlands Preserve. That 1 mile will link it to Leesylvania. So you'll be able to get on park at the parking lot and walk 2 miles and still be on dry land. That is the existing from the original construction, and it has been pretty torn up over the years with not only beavers making their inroads into the area, but of course the intensity of storms is increasing, and there's just a lot more standing water. As far as I want to talk a little bit about signing, which we're trailblazing the sign. Now we have the "You Are Here" signs I showed you, and also the interpretive signage is being developed for the entire park. We're also going to be improving the Eagles Park baseball parking lot to make it better access to the increased access to the park. All right, completed and ongoing projects. I feel like I'm going too fast here, so I apologize. At Ripon Lodge, we've got a new roof, 2 new roofs actually, the flat roofs in the main section. We have upgraded the ADA compliant sidewalk connections from the lodge parking lot to the house. We now have an electronic entrance feature with a gate at the lodge entrance. This will allow us to open the park in the morning and close it at night, therefore effectively, quadrupling the amount of time folks can visit. The house itself will still be open 11 to 4, May through October, but it's a beautiful place just to walk around, and it's a great part of the Neabsco Regional Park. Other ongoing projects, we were in the design for a canoe and kayak launch at the north entrance to the boardwalk. So we'll have a put in there. I know a lot of folks are putting in on their own. We're going to try to make it easier for everybody. We're super excited about that. We're going to add benches and more erosion control measures. We've actually just added the erosion control measures. The benches are something that are desperately needed for folks to take a break. It gets hot in the summertime, and we really need to make sure that we're providing everybody with a chance to take a break during their hikes. We're also planning on acquiring an additional 56 acres of the creek. We've been working on that for a couple of years now. That's going to be from the Townhome Association that the villages at Ripon Lodge, and they are excited about this, being able to donate that property, and that's going to enlarge the park substantially. The boardwalk goes through some of it, so it's going to be a little easier for us to own it versus an easement for a trail. I mentioned the 1 mile boardwalk extension and the interpretive and wayfinding signs. Future projects. These are those wish list items. If you've noticed, a lot of folks are parking illegally on the side of Blackburn Road. We put up, which looks like a sign garden, and that doesn't look nice, but we had to, signs on the HOA property that state no parking private property. People are still parking there, and we're working with VDOT to try to, once we acquire that land, to put in an ADA compliant parking lot only, so that folks can get closer to the boardwalk, folks with disabilities. Additional land acquisition I've mentioned for the creek. And of course, this is a big one, a cultural natural resource education center. An environmental lab. It had been the Ripon Lodge Visitor Center, or the Prince William County Visitor Center at Ripon Lodge. We've pivoted away from that, and we feel a more hands-on nature and cultural center would be a great addition to that area. It would also provide restrooms, and they're very desperately needed as well. If we can't do that, we'll add a restroom facility. We're putting additional sidewalks from Ripon Lodge's parking lot down to the north parking lot for overflow, so that there'll be enough parking spaces for everybody. I mentioned the improvements to Eagles parking lot, and then the big one here is going to be from Leesylvania to Potomac Shores with a Powell's Creek Boardwalk, which is part of the bond that you all voted for last November. So with that, questions, discussions?
Maybe you can close out your presentation so we
Sure.
can see, and we can go back to any particular slides at any time. There we go.
Okay,
So again, if you have a comment, use the raise hand and we'll call on you. Eric.
Hi, good evening. This is Eric Fagerholm. I happen to be the president of the Merrimack Farm Chapter Virginia Master Naturalists. I'm not representing them. I'm a board member of the Conservation Alliance. Thank you so much, Brendan, for your presentation. I've got three things. Before I begin, I favor the expansion and thank you for appearing tonight. The three things I have to do with the environment, regulatory issues, and signage. Regarding the environment, I'm so appreciative of what you've got going on at Rippon Lodge. You've got no-mow zones labeled, and I think the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism need to do more of that. We mow way too much. Let it go back to nature. Great job on what you're doing at Rippon Lodge. I would like to see that be expanded. So thank you so much. If you'd pass that to Seth and Tracy, I would appreciate that. The second thing has to do with regulatory issues, which is to say, I had a group of people out there on the boardwalk, and a lot of citizens were not wearing masks. I think the county's got a great deal of control in terms of spreading COVID-19. We ought to be very bold in saying, look, if you're going to be out there on the boardwalk, wear a mask. It's about 10 feet plus wide. I think that needs to improve. I also wish that you could reserve the pavilion. You can no longer reserve the pavilion at the north end. I wanted to do that with a group of people. That didn't happen. The last thing has to do with signage. And I would hope the signage would be more durable. At Ann Moncure Wall Park, where I live, and other places, they tend to be boards that are painted. And in 10 or 15 years, they become hard to maintain. They peel. There's these ridiculous decals. We could do a lot better on signage. The signage, the little boardwalk things that you presented will last for many years. I would recommend simple signs that are durable. And then back to the no-mow zones. We've got a number of parks, like where I live, where the silt flows into the Powell's Creek watershed. I think the county can do a better job, but you're doing a fabulous job. Thank you so much. I'll be in contact with you by phone tomorrow. Thanks.
Excellent, Eric, thank you. Great points. When I transferred to Parks and Recreation last December, along with the Historic Preservation Division, one of the discussions I had up front with Seth is that we needed to have a natural resource. This is something we'd had discussions on for a while. A natural resources section, for the first time in parks that I could tell. There was a reason why historic preservation wasn't part of parks. So all those no-mow areas were historic preservation. We handled those. We designed those. The B program, that was ours. So we've been trying to minimize our footprint as a historic preservation division, and when we created the new planning and capital projects division, we added in natural and cultural resource protection. So we have a number of parks next year that are going to not just go no-mow, we're going to properly replant them in wildflowers and native wildflowers, so that they just, it's just not fescue getting tall. It's actually the stuff that can help our environment. We also have a Bristow battlefield. It's got significant no-mow areas, or once or twice a year, depending on the weather, and also at Brentsville. So we've established a number of these areas that have been hugely successful. And I think next year we're probably going to have at least 3 major parks, including Hellwig, our main office. It's going to go a lot. We're going to add a lot more native wildflowers to those areas. So excellent point. Signage, we actually dropped the ball on that one. We needed to have our signage done on day 1, and we didn't. The regulatory signs are finally up. They are durable. We have gone away from the cheaper product, and we're going with our county sign shop for the heavy metal signs. And they have all been ordered. We have, I guess it's 7 of the You Are There signs, or You Are Here signs, I'm sorry, and a number of regulatory signs. So try to keep the fishing down on the boardwalk. As far as the masks, that's kind of out of my wheelhouse. So, but thank you for the comments. It's all very important things.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to contact my supervisor in the morning and pass along my appreciation. Great job.
Thank you.
I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Michael, you got anything to add? Any comments? Unmute.
Well, Brendan, number one, awesome presentation.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciated it. I donated that land 20 years ago, actually a little over 20 years ago. And it's great to see it being used. That was kind of the dream, when we first planned it, to have that trail come through. So we just did a temporary trail. We thought when we gave to the county that was going to happen in 3 to 5 years. Took 20, but it happened. I just want to point out a couple of things that you might not know about, because we always dealt with Hildebarg and Patty Dietz. But the county also bought a 5-lot subdivision in the southwest corner. And I built the sewer to it. So there's sewer out there. And at one time, Hilda wanted to put a nature education center there with a small parking lot, picnic area, and bathroom facilities. It could be, from what I've seen, it's still needed, or at least definitely bathrooms and potentially parking and ideally picnic areas. Some people want to be able to go outside, sit at a picnic table, grill. And, to me, it'd be wonderful to be living there next to wetland, but this is the second best thing. You could visit it. So the infrastructure is already in place. I don't know if you knew that.
Mike, I did. Being at Lee's venue, I watched you build it.
Yeah.
And I was aware of the water and sewer for the stub outs for that area. I would love to use that area for exactly what you're talking about, because it's probably the most disturbed part of the site. And that makes just common sense to put something, where it's already been disturbed. But the county made a deal, and I think Hilda might have been still around for that one, when that Newport finally slid.
I heard they dumped some clay there.
Yeah, they put a lot of clay there to store it. So we would probably have to dig off a lot of clay to get that to be usable land. But absolutely, in the interim, I think it would make a great festival area. So if we're going to have a fall birding festival or something like that, that'd be a great place to put all the tents, to put the food trucks, put all that. So it is certainly in our plans, but that's a lot of dirt to move.
Right. Well, hopefully at least you could maybe use a sewer for a bathroom, and maybe a gravel parking area. The other two things I wanted to point out was, obviously I wish you could, all the signage for Julie Metz was taken down basically. And, we were asked by the Army Corps and EPA to name the bank in her honor. It was the Neabsco Wetlands Bank at one time. Mm-hmm. But Julie was a Army Corps scientist that created the 1995 regulation that really promoted mitigation banking throughout the country. She died of breast cancer. She was born the same month and year I was, and she died between phase 1 and phase 2. So it was dedicated when she was alive, and then her ashes, some of them were spread out there after she died. And it's kind of disappointing just to see that history go away. So if there could be some signage for that. And the other history that I think is interesting was that this was the creek was the second oldest Army Corps dredge project authorized under the River and Harbors Act of 1890. And I think, I don't know if you have that information, we gave it to Patty way back, but it was kind of, it could be another cool, to me, it's kind of interesting for a signpost. You can see the remnants of the side cast material upstream a little bit of the boardwalk.
Well, thank you, Mike. I actually had a chance to go to the phase 1.
Okay.
So, and on all of our literature, it's the Julie Metz Neabsco Creek Wetlands Preserve. The tablets, the bench, all that stuff is still there. All those memorials are there. So we certainly try to keep, as much as we can, keep her efforts alive as far as that goes. And once we do some more interpretation in there, I'm sure we'll put up something more detailed. We lost our kiosk that you built. As you probably been out there.
That's where a lot of the information was there.
It was, and we just haven't. As part of our new sign package, we'll be revisiting that, and also trying to enlarge that parking lot just a little bit.
That'd be great.
So, but it's an amazing project. I actually went out there and videotaped it back. I think it was a hurricane of '96 when all of the pods filled up with water and it just looked like a huge lake.
Yep.
So yeah, it was amazing to watch. And driving down the Neabsco Road, saying, "Why'd they leave that one tree in the middle?"
Oh, it's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it's just, I mean, I've been obviously been involved in a long time, and I go there all the time, and I just love what you've done.
Well, thank you. We'll get those old boardwalks out, and we're tired of tying them to trees.
Yeah, I know.
We'll get a real nice 8-foot low boardwalk through the whole back end.
Well, the FEMA floodplain I know has risen about 5 feet between studies in that area.
It's almost hard. It's incredibly hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
So,
I'll stop talking. Thanks.
that's Mike.
Okay, more comments? Stories, what do you think of the Neabsco Creek Boardwalk? Pamela? You need to unmute.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I'd like to make a comment and ask a question. The comment is that the last time we were out on the Neabsco Creek Boardwalk, I thought it was very heartening to see that there were a lot of people out there and that it was a very diverse population, which suggests that the people who have designed this have done a good job of outreach to a broad cross-section of the local population who now feel that this is their place to come and enjoy a beautiful spot and get fresh air and exercise. And so I think that's very heartening. The question, I have a question about the Potomac Heritage Trail in Occoquan Bay and where that is going to be located, and how, is it going to mean there's a difference in the Occoquan Bay from what we've known in the past, or what's the situation there?
Thank you for I don't know that we planned the trail to be more inclusive. Certainly that's a goal of our department, and we put it front and center on our new comp plan that was passed in March, where accessibility, inclusiveness, climate resiliency are all things we're talking about, versus for every 10,000 residents, we need another basketball court or we need another tennis court. So thank you for that. It's amazing to me. I mean, I walked it the first probably 2 weeks every night, and just to see the diversity of folks. I had a guy complaining as he was walking about his wife making him walk every night for health reasons because it was in their neighborhood. So yeah, I think hopefully we can do the same with the entire Potomac Heritage Trail. To get folks out into nature and to program it, that would be our ideal scenario. As far as Occoquan Bay, an interesting project. The new trail will link up with Belmont Bay at the, I guess it'd be the eastern end near their golf course, where the trail ends there. If you've been to Belmont Bay, where it comes along the Occoquan, that paved path, you'll go into the woods there, and you'll turn right. You can go left and go follow the bay, or you can go right, and then you'll see our new Stone Dust Trail with fence that goes straight out to the to Farm Creek Drive. And from there, it crosses in front of the current refuge office, and heads onto county property onto Veterans Park. So in effect, Belmont to Veterans Park will be open to through traffic, hopefully within a month. So it borders the existing driveway.
Okay, thank you.
So Phil, you got some news on birding off the trail? You got to unmute.
Okay. One hike I took last week, I went from Leesylvania State Park and took the Potomac Heritage Trail west to near Scuppers Lane, and I looked to the south across the mouth of Powell's Creek, but I don't see where it's marked where a boardwalk would go, but that's great that there's going to be a plan for that, because I've been on the hiking trail in Potomac Shores, and that would be a perfect place to meet up with that.
Yep.
No.
Phil, we have a feasibility study that's been completed. I meant to put one of our slides on there with a rendering of what the would look like, but we would swing around from Leesylvania out to what we call Muscle Island, which is below those townhouses, and loop
Yeah.
back into Potomac shores. There's, I think it's 60 acres of land that is proffered to the county along the south bank of Powell's. That'll be part of that, and it'll connect right into the Potomac Shores trails.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? And if you can't find your raise hand button, just wave your hand around. Dave, it's okay. Go ahead, Dave. You got to unmute.
There we go. Thanks, Kim. Great presentation. And Brendan is the type of jewel of a county employee that we like to have working on our best interests. In that last question, the Potomac Heritage Trail actually, it extends from Occoquan right on down to Stafford County. And as I said at one other presentation that the Conservation Alliance did, it just, I think, has potential to knock the socks off of any other jurisdiction in the metropolitan Washington area. It really does. To go from the history of Occoquan down through Featherstone and Ripon and Occoquan Refuge and Leesylvania and down to Locust Shade and Marine Corps Museum and the town of Occoquan and Prince William Forest Park. It's going to be just outstanding. During the last 10 years, I was actually chairman of the Trails and Blueways Council. We're having our meeting tomorrow night. It's our second one using Zoom. So the first one worked out okay, and we can't wait till they're open belt. But we meet once a month. It's the third Tuesday at the park headquarters, and you all are cordially invited. I mean, this is the county Trails and Blueways Council project that people voted for and that we lobbied for years ago, and it just does a great job. So we've got 2 members from each magisterial district, but you all are invited. And our mantra, our goal is to try to promote trails and greenways and balloonways as much as possible in an environmentally sensitive manner throughout Prince William County. So your ideas are very much sought after. We love citizen input. And the one thing that Brendan and I were talking about earlier today, I chaired the council, chair this year now, but I chaired the Trails and Blueways Council 10 years ago. And this was a project that only made it by 1 vote. It took 10 years to get built. It's a long process, and we went through our highs and lows, and but what we ended up providing, I think, is just something that is a marvelous asset for Virginians and across the country. All of our surveys show across the country, not just in Prince William or Virginia, that passive walking is the #1 activity that people put down in their surveys year after year. So I just, again, I want to thank you and certainly Brendan for the presentation. I work with Brendan every day, so it's great to work with him because he loves the stuff. But we would really like to have your input, your ideas, your suggestions. Signage is a real good example. And together, by working together, we can make this an even bigger and better place for future generations.
Thank you, David. David, I mentioned earlier that citizens do make a difference. Everyone here makes a difference. Mike developed that park, a big portion of that, 200+ acres of the creek for wetlands preservation. The boardwalk wouldn't be sited the way it is now. That beautiful, undulating, curved, meant to pull your views away from modern intrusions. If David hadn't stepped in and let's just say gave some good constructive criticism to the Parks Department on the layout. It was supposed to go over the power lines to the back of the sewage treatment plant. That was the first design we saw. So again, everybody here makes a difference, and it is it's great to see at least that part done, and hopefully the next couple of years we'll get a lot more done.
Okay, I'm gonna scroll through and see if I see any hands waving around. This is your chance to, oh, Lucia. She's gonna unmute.
Yes, she is. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I might even actually put my picture up. Okay, there we go. I was going to ask about the Powell's Creek Boardwalk, but you've already discussed that pretty well. My frustration is, yeah, it goes from Occoquan, the Occoquan down to the Chapawamsik, except that it doesn't. There are bits here and pieces there, and I have not been able to get a very clear understanding of where all of this goes. The maps that I look at have it going out to Route 1 through South Woodbridge, and you know, is there a way to show people where it's going to go and dotted lines? And it would be very helpful to have, you know, 2021 on this one and 2025 on that one, although I know you've got engineering and funding and all kinds of things to take care of before you can put a date on anything.
Well, thank you, Lucia. We do have that map. I'll share it with Kim, and she can post it on the website. We have it on ours as well. There's a new board, and we've met with the Supervisor Bailey and Supervisor Franklin to go over. Of course, the two segments are Woodbridge District and the Potomac District, and we're significantly further ahead in Woodbridge because of Mr. Principe's involvement. Really, that's what it took, and one of the reasons why the boardwalk again is as nice as it is, and is because parks were hamstrung with funding, and that's why they wanted to put it over the power lines. It's the shortest, straightest route. So, and he didn't worry about that. He said, let's build something that's worthy of us. And I think we're going to get the same with this bond. We're going to have a chance to really connect the dots. There's also been a situation where because we couldn't go point A to point B, we went to point C.
Okay.
Because you could actually do that. So some of those, like there's a part where we go all the way around Montclair. It's going Forest Park.
Okay.
We're going to dive into the southern section now, starting at Potomac Shores. The folks at Potomac Shores have been great to work with on their second loop of their trail system. They get the northern part done. The southern part's going to be critically important to us to connect out into Dumfries. So we're scheduled to meet again with Supervisor Bailey to kind of show her the lay of the land for the southern part. But there's so many different variables, and it's so difficult. I mean, the plan is 54 years old, and you know, there's a lot. Occoquan to Belmont is really tricky. So we're getting there. It's a long process, and it can be confusing. So I do appreciate the comment, and like I said, we'll share what we have with you all.
Okay, one other thing. I live in the harbors of Newport, so you know, I just go down past Lee Sylvania School and across the road, and there I am, which is great. But I would kind of like to see more amenities here on the south end. Parking. You can get 6 cars into the little parking lot at Julie Metz, and it would be nice to have restrooms on this end, and you know, a few other things there. I'm not sure where you're going to put them, on that big dirt pile that's next to the ballpark.
Yeah, we'd have to probably remove the dirt pile to get there. But we are going to make some improvements this fall to the signage, and also the cut through from Eagles Park to get onto the trail. We're going to take that berm out. And then
down the hill.
Yeah. So, and that's actually on our agenda for tomorrow's Trails and Blueway Council meeting to discuss that. So that's a pretty easy fix. We didn't realize at the time that we were going to be so heavily need to use the southern section as far as for parking, but since we already had the lot there, we're going to go ahead and dress that up and make that a secondary parking lot.
Okay. Right.
And I do think, as Mike mentioned, that 6-acre area is the ideal place to put new amenities.
Mhm.
It's going to be expensive to remove that dirt, but that's just the cost of doing business in Northern Virginia nowadays.
But Brendan, there might be a pretty inexpensive way. If you ever just talk to me on the side, I've got some ideas of what to do with it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Okay, Sharon and then Nancy. Sharon Richardson.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I am the Woodbridge District Commissioner on the county's Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Commission, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this program, the presentation rather, and I've enjoyed hearing from so many of you, not only the kudos, but also the things that you would like to, continuing improvements that can be made. To make a pitch to everyone on this webinar. The parks budget is thin, as are many county agencies' budgets right now. But I would encourage you, when the Board of County Supervisors is having these budget workshops, when they have their Board of County Supervisors meetings, we need you to show up and demand funding for parks, recreation, and tourism. We can do so much more, but we're there fighting for the same dollars as police and fire and rescue and libraries and public works. And all of those, of course, are important, but so are our parks, our trails, our blueways, our waterways. Those are important too, and we really need you all to show up and let the Board of County Supervisors know that we, the citizens of Prince William, want these things. So I encourage you to, some of the people on this call can't encourage and advocate the same way that I can, but they all have ideas about ways you can help. So please reach out to them. Feel free to reach out to me or your own member of the Parks and Rec Commission for ideas. We can help, but we need you to show up at those board meetings. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Unmute myself. Thank you very much, Sharon. And Nancy?
Hi, thanks, Kim. Thanks so much to the Conservation Alliance for hosting this tonight. And thank you, Brendan, for the presentation. This is a wonderful asset that we have in our county. The Neabsco Creek Boardwalk is fabulous, and I really ought to get out there more, though it's on the other side of the county. One thing that I would suggest is that host naturalists along the boardwalk, especially during busy times. I mean, this is probably post-COVID-19, but we have all these people that have never been engaged in nature, and yeah, sure, they will see a sign or something, but they might not even read it. But if you had some people out there, volunteers or something, that could engage people, point out birds or turtles or, the plants or whatever, I just think that would add a lot to the experience for people and really engage them with nature. So just an idea there. Then a couple of other things. You mentioned having some more benches, and I thought if you do have people stationed out there, that if they had some shade, that would be helpful too. So that would be really good. I do thank you for all the no-mow zones and your native plantings. I think that's a fabulous thing. And then if you do have to take down trees for a view shed from Rippon Lodge, that if you had a native meadow, along with your farm stuff, that would be cool. And I think that's it. So thank you very much, Brendan, for talking to us, and thanks, Kim, for hosting this.
Thank you, Nancy.
You got comments?
Just to go back on the interpreters station that's something we've talked about, and like Nancy, you mentioned it, COVID's kind of just thrown a lot of that planning out the window for now. We can, we're having summer camps as a necessity for folks, but we're really not doing a lot of programming right now, and that's something we'll get back to. And I think that just the times I've been out there when I've helped people identify things, I tend to even just wear my shirt out there so people, my Prince William County Park shirt so that folks will know that they can ask me questions. And it's amazing when folks, folks who are not used to being in nature and just the smiles on the kids' faces when they see something like an osprey diving in front of them or something like that. It's, yeah, I agree. It would be great to have programming out there. Fairfax County's programming it, so maybe we should too. They're actually bringing buses down, I guess, pre-COVID.
So as we're moving on, I have one question.
Kim?
Yeah? You have something, Joyce?
Yes, we have master naturalists. Maybe they could be interpreters out there when we get through COVID.
Absolutely. I think there's plenty of people that are going to volunteer to go out there and help. That's a pretty good gig.
Hi, Kim. This is Greg Butcher with the Audubon Society of Northern Virginia, and I'm chair of the Conservation Committee, and I just wanted everybody to know that this whole area is part of the lower Potomac River Important Bird Area. It's a tremendously important area for all the bird watchers in Northern Virginia. We've loved having access to Occoquan Bay and to Lee Sylvania State Park and to Julie Metz Wetland, and it's really exciting for all of us to have these, the trail and the boardwalks increase the access to the area. I'm looking forward to walking to Featherstone National Wildlife Refuge someday, still haven't been there yet. So just thank everybody in Prince William County for opening up this area and keeping the natural habitat so beautiful, attracting so many birds, and offering that Audubon Society of Northern Virginia can probably help with bird interpretation as well. We've got a lot of folks that like to be out there interacting with the public and can help with that interpretation. We've been collecting citizen science data at Julie Metz Wetlands for a couple decades now. So keeping track of the birds, the butterflies, the native plants, and the dragonflies. So hopefully we can expand that farther in Prince William County as well. So thanks for all you do.
Judy Gallagher, I think, is still on, and I think she's part of your team that goes out there. Is that true, Judy?
Amen. You bet. Phil helps every once in a while too.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments, Judy, on the surveys? We'll wait for her to unmute or not. Okay. She can pop in later if she wants. So Brendan, what is the
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
You are.
Am I unmuted? Okay. Yeah, we do go out once a month to Julie Metz Wetlands and survey, as Greg mentioned, and we find an awful lot of interesting species there that we don't find elsewhere in our survey circle. So thank you, Brendan, for expanding this. This is great.
Thank you. We rely on that data pretty heavily on our interpretation, so it's great to have it coming in every month.
So I was going to ask, what's the story with Featherstone about hooking up and opening up?
Featherstone's it's not a long run in there. It's less than a mile of trail. But you have the pipeline, you have the CSX, you have constructability in there is basically going to be bringing in each board at a time for the boardwalks, because it's, just getting access there with the vehicles is pretty difficult. There's two crossings, water crossings that we've got to do. One's the larger one up north, and then there's one about halfway down through there. So we've got it designed. We're using a federal land access grant, which means we have to go through VDOT for the approvals for the bidding process. So that's going to start this fall, and we're hoping to be under construction next spring. But my big concern is budget. We've done a great job designing things that we can't afford. So we're trying to stop that. But there's a lot of add-ons to projects as they go. But so we're going to have to, as Sharon mentioned, we're lean, but we have some project funds in there, but we really might need to go back and ask for some additional funds for that project. But it is designed. It's a series of low boardwalks similar to what we're going to be putting in the Metz section of Neabsco, and a couple of prefab bridges. and then the rest will be natural surface.
Oh, good.
That's
It's
a
a
cool
great
place.
park.
Yeah, it's a cool place. I couldn't believe how many herons were out there, and I spooked them about a month or so ago.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Yeah.
Eileen,
I would just like to, if there's an update on Possum's Nose on the Potomac River at Cockpit Point Road, and how's that going to fit in, or is it?
Oh, great question. That's an awesome question. That's my favorite park right there. We're meeting tomorrow with Dominion Energy to enlist their potential of donation of additional land and or any financial support that they might want to lend. We have $200,000 in proffers from Potomac Shores that we have not spent anything on yet, and that's going to go towards I think we've got the natural resource layout down to that place. We've had a lot of folks out there ground truthing it over the last few years. It's an interesting area because it is this beautiful wild ridge and ravine ecosystem along the Potomac River. I mean, you were in the middle of West Virginia when you were climbing those hills there, and it is so unique. When you get to the top of one ridge, there's another one behind it that's even taller. So it's got 3 or 4 major wetlands guts that come through there. The most significant is the pond that was created when the railroad came through. I guess that'd be probably in the 20s. When it moved away from the water side and inland on the other side of Cockpit Point. So for those who don't know, Cockpit Point or Possum Nose is its real term. It was a Civil War gun emplacement in the 1860s. That 16 acres is landlocked from the Potomac River and the railroad. We also, when it was rezoned, that was given to us in a rezoning or proffered to us. For years, we tried to get that additional 96 acres on the west side of the railroad, and Potomac Shores, when they came in for an amendment to their rezoning, they did donate that to the county. So it's 113 acres. There's a potential, if Dominion Energy is interested, that we could make it well over a 200-acre park. And the plan there is to add parking, a small parking lot, because it's not really going to, just such incredibly difficult slopes to work on.
Yeah.
And it's all that sandy clay Potomac River soil. So we would think we would put a small parking lot up right next to the road, and then we would have a series of trails that would lead through right now the 100+ acres on the west side, and then over time try to figure out how to get folks across to the actual gun battery, which would probably have to be a bridge.
Had you thought about people coming by boat? Because
we have, yeah. I mean, we've actually talked about putting a pier up
right.
so that folks could moor there. And it's such a steep climb, though. There's a reason why the Confederates put their cannons on top of it. It's a heck of a hike to get up the side of that hill. So, but it is an absolutely incredibly beautiful spot in Prince William County, and it is so fragile and such a great area. Phil's been out there with me, so I think we are really interested in probably connecting it as a spur trail to the Potomac Heritage Trail, because if you get there, you can't get through Dominion and you can't get down Possum Point Road. So it's just going to be, that's kind of a deal breaker there. So we would have it come out of Potomac Shores as new trails to connect across Rockford Point Road to the new trail system.
Thank you. Just have to watch out for the copperheads over there.
It is. It's an amazing place. We have at least one eagle nest on the property, so probably 2, but now we've at least identified 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, anybody else, you have anything to add, Phil? Nope. Okay, I'm scrolling through looking for waving hands or raise hand. Not seeing anybody. You have closing remarks, Brendan?
This has been great. Thank you. It's always nice to talk to folks about protection of our natural and cultural resources. That's something near and dear to me. I'm been in the county now 18 years, so I had a chance to really do the things we needed for historic preservation, and now I'm looking forward to kind of turning back towards some of the natural stuff. But please, if you had a chance, visit Neabsco. Go up to Ripon Lodge, walk around. We have a trail system through there. It's beautiful views of the river from up on top of the hill. Tours 11 to 4, Thursday through Monday. And I think they're only $5, so it's a pretty good deal. And thanks for having me, Kim. I always enjoy working with you. I remember when your kids you were dragging them to programs back in the day, and they were tiny. So
I know they're just really, one wasn't even in school, and now he's all grown.
Oh, it's awesome. So thanks for everybody for doing what you all do. I mean, we take a lot of heart by the fact that there's so many great people out there that are challenging us and are engaged in our environmental protection.
And thank you, Brendan. We really appreciate it. And everybody is so interested in this great project. So we can keep track as it moves along. And we did record this meeting, so it'll be up on our YouTube channel, and I'll send everybody an email on where you can access it. And we hope we see you at future programs. Please email me if you have ideas. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Was there anything?
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.